Hello and welcome, learners. We are back at it again. The subject is financial management. Today we're going to study yet another long-term source of funds known as asset securitization and sale. Asset securitization and sale. In this lesson, we will highlight the characteristics, the benefits, and the downsides of asset securitization and sale. And candidates, asset securitization and sale is a financial process where a company converts its illiquid assets into tradable securities. From the word securitization is where a company converts. If a company has illiquid assets like loans, like trade receivables, then such illiquid assets can be converted into tradable securities. So the process of converting illiquid assets into tradable securities is what we are referring to as asset securitization. These illiquid assets, after conversion into tradable securities, they are then issued or sold to investors. That's why referring to this source as asset securitization and sale. After converting the assets into securities, then these securities are sold to investors. So that is a long-term source of funding. And this allows a company to raise funds based on the cash flows generated by the underlying assets. I gave an example of the underlying asset here, loans or trade receivables. So what are the characteristics of this source of funding? Characteristics: asset securitization and sale. One is illiquid assets conversion. Illiquid asset conversion. Illiquid asset conversion. Illiquid asset conversion. Illiquid asset conversion. Companies use asset securitization to convert illiquid assets such as loans, such as receivables, into marketable securities. And this process, candidates, transforms the cash flows generated by these assets into tradable instruments. 2, special purpose vehicle. Special purpose vehicle. What is a special purpose vehicle? Now, asset-based securities, asset-based or backed securities, let me use the word backed. Asset-backed securities are typically issued through special purpose vehicles, which is a separate legal entity that is tasked with holding and managing the securitized assets. Do you understand? A company that desires, to put in other words, a company that desires to securitize its assets, such a company will have to form a special purpose vehicle, which is an independent outfit that is established, is independent from the company. And the purpose for a special purpose vehicle is to hold and manage the securitized assets independently, independent of the originating company. So this is a feature of asset securitization and sale. There has to be a special purpose vehicle, which is a separate legal entity established to hold and to manage the securitized assets. 3, cash flow collateral. What do I mean by cash flow collateral? Now, the cash flows generated by the underlying assets serve as collateral for the issued securities. Do you understand, candidates? The underlying assets, I gave examples, could be trade receivables or loans, or trade receivables. The cash flows that could be received from the debtors are used as the collateral. Do you understand? The cash flows generated by the underlying assets serve as collateral for the issued securities. And the investors receive what we call periodic payments based on such cash flows. Cash flow collateral is a feature of asset securitization and sale. 4, diverse asset classes. Diverse asset classes. Now, asset securitization can involve various asset classes, including mortgage-backed securities, auto loans, and other types of debt instruments. So this source provides the company with diverse asset classes. I'll give you an example of mortgage-backed securities, the auto loans, and so on. The 5th characteristic of asset securitization and sale is credit enhancement. Credit enhancement. Now, to enhance the credit quality of securities, issuers may incorporate what we call credit enhancements. Do you understand? Such as over-collateralization, such as over-collateralization. These are enhanced credit enhancements. There could also be third-party guarantees. Third-party guarantees, and so on. These are credit enhancements. There are many. There could be subordination of cash flows and so on. Credit enhancements. So these are 5 features of asset securitization and sale. Let's now discuss the pros, benefits of asset securitization and sale. What are the benefits? 1 is diversification of funding sources. Diversification of funding sources. Diversification of funding sources. How is that an advantage? Now, asset securitization provides companies with an additional funding source, allowing them to do what? To diversify their financing structure and reduce reliance on traditional loans or equity. Diversity. 2, risk transfer. How is risk transfer an advantage? Now, by Securitizing assets. Companies transfer credit risk from their balance sheets to the investors. And that can be beneficial in terms of risk management and regulatory capital requirements. Improved liquidity. Number 3, improved liquidity. Improved liquidity. The sale of asset-backed securities in the secondary market enhances liquidity for the originating company, as the securities can be traded among investors. Because remember, it is the conversion of illiquid assets. Asset securitization is the conversion of illiquid assets. The illiquid assets are converted into securities, which then increases the liquidity position of the originating company. 4, access to capital markets. Access to capital markets. Asset securitization opens up access to capital markets, enabling companies to tap into a broader investor base and potentially secure a more favorable financing terms. It enables the company access capital markets. 5, the 5th benefit could be one related to interest rate risk. Interest rate risk mitigation. Interest rate risk mitigation. Now, companies can use assets securitization to manage interest rate fluctuations. All right, they can use this method of funding to manage interest rates, and that is done by matching the cash flows from the securitized assets with the interest payments owed to the investors. So that is how interest rate risk mitigation is a benefit associated with asset securitization. These are 5 benefits. We are going to outline the downsides, the disadvantages of asset disadvantages. What are the downsides of this source of funding? One is complex structuring. Complex structuring. Now, the structuring of asset-backed securities can be complex, involving legal, accounting, regulatory considerations, and so on. And that complexity may require the involvement of financial professionals, may involve the efforts of legal experts and so on, which could be costly. So that is a disadvantage. Complex structuring. It's not easy to structure the asset securitization and sale arrangement. It may require financial expertise, which comes at a cost, and which is now then a disadvantage to the originating company, the original company. Market sensitivity, number 2, is another disadvantage. Market sensitivity. Market sensitivity. The pricing and the demand for asset-backed securities are sensitive to market conditions, including interest rates, including economic outlook, including the sentiments of the investors, and so on. And even the market disruptions can impact the availability and the cost of securitization. Number 3, perception and reputation risk. Perception and reputation risk. Now, the perception of securitization practices, that the perception behind it, especially in the context of global financial crisis, may lead to concerns about transparency, risk management, and investor protection, which then affects a company's reputation. So perception and reputation can be a disadvantage, as I've just explained. There are also other costs like servicing costs. Servicing costs. Companies may incur costs associated with servicing the securitized assets, including collection payments, including managing defaults, and ensuring compliance with the regulatory requirements. Those are examples of servicing costs. Managing defaults comes at a cost. Collecting payments comes at a cost. Ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements also comes at a cost, which is a disadvantage of asset securitization and sale as a long-term source of funding. 5, reduced control. Reduced control. Once assets are securitized and sold, the originating company may lose control over the management and performance of those assets. Why? Because they are now owned by the investors and not the original company. There is reduced control over the assets that have been securitized. So these are 5 disadvantages of asset securitization and sale. In this lesson, we've highlighted 5 characteristics. 1, illiquid asset conversion. 2, special purpose vehicle. 3, cash flow collateral. 4, diverse asset classes. 5, credit enhancements such as third-party guarantees, over collateralization, and so on. Then we've also highlighted 5 benefits of asset securitization and sale. 1 is diversification of funding sources. 2, risk transfer. 3, improved liquidity. 4, access to capital markets. 5, interest rate risk mitigation. And lastly, disadvantages. 1, complex structuring. 2, market sensitivity. 3, perception and reputation. 4, servicing costs. 5, reduced control. So that's the end of the lesson. But to summarize the lesson, candidates, we can say that asset securitization and sale offer companies a mechanism to raise funds by converting illiquid assets into marketable securities. And while this method provides diversification, while it provides risk transfer or access to capital markets and even interest rate risk mitigation, while it also provides or improves the liquidity of the company. Those are advantages. While there are advantages associated with the asset securitization and sale, as we have highlighted in our today's lesson, the process is not without complexities and risks. And therefore, careful consideration of the unique characteristics of the assets, the market conditions, and investor perceptions is crucial for successful asset securitization and sale. In closing, I'm going to give you an assignment just based on what we have learned. Asset securitization and sale. Question number 1. What is the process of asset securitization and how does it enable companies to convert illiquid assets into marketable securities? 2. Discuss the advantages and risks associated with asset securitization for businesses, as well as its impact on the overall financial market. 3. How do regulatory frameworks influence the practice of asset securitization, and what considerations should companies keep in mind when deciding to securitize their assets? Thank you for attending the lesson. In our next session, we're going to study Islamic finance as a long-term source of funds. Bye.